The Utah Utes proved two things this weekend. They're really dang good at football, and Byrd FICKLIN is a future college football star quarterback.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time tuning into the show, make sure you like and subscribe. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College, all caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistrcill, excited to be joined on today's show by a friend of the show and the host of Locked On West Virginia, Mountaineer Paul, who does a great job not just covering the Mountaineers, but the Big 12 as a whole. And I mean, me and Mountaineer Paul both got a chance to watch that Utah game yesterday, and that was one heck of a performance this team put up. And we'll talk about Byrd FICKLIN in a moment, but as we go longer into this college football season, MP, we learn like which teams are real, which teams are not. Yes, Utah has 2 losses. Those 2 losses look pretty dang good overall. And I know Tech stumbled against ASU, and then BYU is just miraculously keeps finding ways to win. But the fact of the matter is, those are 2 top 20 losses. And man, Utah has demolished everyone else. Their talent in the trenches, especially the coaching wise yesterday, was a complete mismatch there. I was so impressed with this Utah team. And I think they showed what they are. And that is still one of the, I'd say, 5 best teams in the Big 12 as we sit here today.
Impressive performance by the Utes, man. Second play of the game, you guys go 63 yards.
Yeah.
And you know, typically you've got a freshman like that, things are a little bit more controlled, but your offensive line's so dominant that the alley was there for anybody with speed and agility to get through. And Byrd FICKLIN surely has that in spades. We rarely needed to see him throw on Saturday because of that. He did make timely throws when possible, and as a matter of fact, hadn't thrown an incompletion in his career until yesterday, right? So I think he was 9 for 9 coming into the day or something like that. So, you know, obviously he had already had some forms of success coming in, but what a display of just overall dominance against a team that's not floundering like West Virginia had been, right? Like, I mean, they had shown some signs of life here and there, and certainly talented. And this is not year one of a regime for Colorado. They're, you know, things are supposed to be better than this, JT. They're supposed to be the class of the league, and they're not, even though they have all the support to be so.
They do. And they just beat an Iowa State team that I still like, an Iowa State team that definitely had a chance to beat that BYU team yesterday, right? So like Iowa State, not a bad team. And Colorado found a way to beat them. Colorado had played some of these other teams, right? A TCU closer. They played a BYU very close too. Like going back to Colorado themselves, game was much closer at Boulder, but it was just a bad recipe yesterday for the Buffs in Salt Lake City, whether it was the blitz packages that Utah were sending Caden Salter's way. He talked about it. He's like, look, we had a bye even going into this game. I've watched 10 hours of Utah's defense, and I had no idea what they were doing. Like that, when he was willing to say. And you talked about just how good Utah was in the trenches up front, and when you got playmakers like the ones that Utah does, and Byrd doing just enough, and well, more than enough, excuse me, because Byrd was spectacular yesterday. That's what I want to talk about here. Also, we're going to talk about College Game Day coming to Utah this week. So fired up for that, and also talk about a wild week in the Big 12, because unfortunately, still with those 2 losses for Utah, they don't control their own destiny. And we're going to talk about what they need to have happen moving forward. But going to Byrd FICKLIN, Mountaineer Paul, some guys just have that it factor. And Byrd FICKLIN, yes, he was 9 for 9, and he looked impressive, but it all came in garbage time. This was meaningful snaps, and he almost after even that first run, you could just tell he was going to have a day. 140 passing yards, 2 touchdowns there, 1 touchdown on the ground, 151 rushing yards, though, too. That did not look like a true freshman yesterday. Devin Dampier has another year. I do think he'll be Utah's quarterback next year, but I'm not trying to overreact to just one performance. But as we stand here today, MP, if once Dampier were to move on, I'm not like, oh, the next quarterback is outside of our campus. No, he's on campus. He's a true freshman, and I think he's going to be a pretty dang good player in the future.
Yeah, and look, you know, he struggled out of the gates as a passer.
He did,
and then figured it out as the game went on, which you expect from a freshman, right? But where he is good is on the ground, and we saw that. I would say he borders on an elite speed quarterback, the kind of guy that Rich Rod would die for, basically, right? Like that. What's funny is the second play of the game, whenever he busted the 63-yarder, my first thought was, and usually first thought wrong, was like, man, he would look good in gold and blue running our offense, right? Like
Uh-huh.
that's how I thought about that because he's the exact same kind of quarterback that Rich Rod would love to have, all the way from being lefty to all of it. Rich Rod literally recruits left-handed athletic
Yes.
quarterbacks. That's what he recruits for his offense. So, so obviously he's somebody I could see in a similar type of offense, which we do have similar offenses. And, he has some of that it factor you mentioned because you just can't do what he did yesterday without it against a team that has so much talent on the field like Colorado.
Mhm.
So, I think he really, really showed well for himself, and it's a really great glimpse into the future for Utah. And I think he's going to be somebody you can count on in the future. Especially, he got other guys involved too. Buchanan, Simmons, those were great touchdown passes. I think the back shoulder in the end zone was great. I mean,
Mhm.
those are advanced level passes. So I thought he showed himself not as well, but very well, and gave you enough to be really hopeful about the future with.
Yeah, and I think you make an absolutely great point. Like, he is not ready right now. Like, there's some people who like to bring up, like, oh, like quarterback controversy in Salt Lake. No, no, no,
No.
no. Devin Dampier's the guy. This was this was just a bad recipe yesterday. Like, what happened in Salt Lake City yesterday? There's a reason this won't happen week after week. If Byrd was to go out there against Cincinnati, it'd be a much different result this week
Oh
because
yeah.
he is limited as a passer. But the flashes are there, and that's what just gets me excited because he's a guy. Like I said, I still don't think we're going to see him not even next year. So you're talking about 2 years continuing to learn, grow, and develop. And how frequently do we see guys make that freshman to sophomore to even, like, in his case, it'd be a freshman to junior leap almost, because that's what I'm projecting him out to. I look at a guy like a Spencer Fano, Mountaineer Paul, who obviously is one of the best offensive linemen in college football. He was
Mhm.
benched at times at left tackle. Like, he was not a very good left tackle, but what was he doing? Playing as a true freshman at offensive tackle is an incredible feat, maybe more so than any other position on the field. That position requires so much strength. That's why you rarely see true freshmen out there. So sure enough, he
Mhm.
got his feet wet his first year. Next year, one of the best right tackles in college football. And then Caleb Lonu, who redshirted his freshman year, he's out there at left tackle, and he's going to be was projected a first round pick going into this year's NFL draft just based on what he did last year. So I just feel like the growth and development for those guys. And how about a JJ Buchanan, even Mountaineer Paul too? Like, that's another guy. He's a true freshman.
Yeah,
There's some guys on this offense with potential for Utah, and some who will probably continue to make plays in the present.
absolutely. And to your Bono point, it reminds me of Zach Frazier, a very similar player,
West Virginia
although at
offensive lineman.
center.
Mhm.
Obviously he started out as a freshman. It is very rare. Only special talents do it, right?
Yeah.
I remember Creed Humphrey was able to do that at Oklahoma.
Mhm.
Like the different guys, like when they're freshmen and they're able to come in and you see the flashes, it's definitely exciting. And you guys are definitely blessed on the O line. That's probably where you're most blessed. Besides Rogers, obviously Parker, all those guys on the ground just absolutely crushing it right now. And then 13, what's his name again?
Oh, Nate
The
Johnson, who came in late, right?
the kid you guys keep motioning
No,
across.
Daniel Bray. Thank you. That's
Daniel
Daniel Bray.
Bray.
Yeah. Oh man, he's fast, right?
He, in my opinion, I think he should get way more touches. I don't know, obviously you have two really established guys
Mhm.
and they use him as bait a lot because he had such a good game the other whatever week it was.
BYU.
Last game, was it last game against
Yes.
BYU? Yeah. So he's a kid that I think just super talented. I would love to have a kid like that too.
Yeah, Daniel Bray's really good. I like how Utah used him. I'm okay with him not going between the tackles a ton right now, MP. I just feel like he's not, that's where being a true freshman kind of hurts him to me. I don't think he's ready for the wear and tear that requires. And with the way Wayshawn Parker looked yesterday, I
Oh
also
yeah.
just want even more Wayshawn Parker carries. But I agree. I'm glad that they brought Bray along. It kind of took some time for the freshman to get his feet wet because he wasn't really a part of this offense very frequently. But against BYU, they like that matchup. And I love that they've continued to use him. They don't use Smith Snowden much on offense anymore. And it's in part because they got a guy like Bray whose quickness is so immense that you can get him the ball in different ways, and he makes things happen. And because the Utah Utes made things happen, they're getting College Game Day this week, which is incredibly exciting. What does that mean for the campus and for Utah in a huge matchup with Cincinnati? We're going to tell you in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. how great is it having college football back? I mean, I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just simply nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is genuinely what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about college football games at the P4 level for under $10. The app is super simple, and you can even see the exact view from your seat before buying. That's right, a panoramic view. All of that and more available with Game Time. And honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've ever bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps, no spaces for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. Mountaineer Paul back here with me at segment 2, Crack-a-Doo, as he always does on his show. And Mountaineer Paul, it's a good day to crack-a-doo for the Utah Utes because they are officially getting College Game Day. This is massive. And the first thing I want to say, like a couple weeks ago, I was really frustrated with College Game Day for not coming to Provo at the time, Utah, BYU, the Holy War. I just was so frustrated, not just that they wanted to skip that game, but that they continued to do SEC, Big Ten, SEC, Big Ten, and I should say like almost all SEC, and then one occasional top 10 Big Ten matchup. So the fact that they are coming to Utah, it's awesome. It's a great spotlight for the campus, and I'm really fired up that Utah gets to get spotlighted, and even more so fired up in some ways as a college football fan that they're going somewhere outside of an SEC school.
This will be your third appearance on game day, did you say?
In Salt Lake City, I believe so. Yeah, they've made it on a couple times. I think this will be Utah's third time hosting. They hosted back in 23, and I want to say 17 was the other time too.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think a lot of people they probably underestimate how big game day is from a visibility standpoint. It's the pregame show and has been for decades now. And so there's a lot that goes into that. And here's the thing, you're not only is your city going to get a spotlight, but your stadium is going to get a spotlight. Your players are going to get spotlighted, and people are going to be watching what I like to call ready to put pencil to paper. And what I mean by that is they're going to be watching Utah. Are they legit or are they not legit? This is going to give the majority of the country a chance, the impetus to do so and make that judgment, because I think as of right now, some people think they are, some people think they not. Well, you're going to have a primetime game against a team that's evenly matched with Utah, and it means so much to have game day, especially when you're not the big favorite, because sometimes that happens, right? We had that happen at West Virginia a few times where it was great, but the team we were playing against, we were supposed to beat or way favored against. So it's great whenever you're playing against teams evenly matched. There's those nerves you get in your stomach for it, but there's also just what it means to the fan base as a whole. And don't take it for granted that, because they just don't come around like they used to. They used to showcase places like North Dakota State, and now they don't anymore. And that's a shame, because Rice-Eccles is absolutely a bucket list place people should want to go see. And what better place to see it than in prime time?
Yeah, it's a late one. That's what's funny about you have game day at 7 a.m. Local time, Mountain Time, and then you're not going to have the game kick off until like 8:15 Mountain Time. I will say, misspoke earlier. It's actually the 5th time that Utah's gotten game day, but as I said, like since 2017, came once then, once in 23, and then you get it now again in 25. And like you said, MP2, like it's just sad to me that they don't go up to the North Dakota, South Dakota states anymore. They went to a Big Sky game a couple years ago. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Madison, when they go there, and I love the biggest matchups. I think there's something to be said there. But the best game day atmospheres are the places you go where they don't take it for granted, because they know this might be the only time in their lifetime they get college game day on their campus. So many the Georgia students, they'll show up early, bright. It's a yearly tradition, whatever. But so many Georgia fans are like, we don't need to go get game day this year. I went last year. That's not the vibe you're going to get at those smaller venues. And even a place like Utah, where it's like, hey, we got this a couple of years ago. Like, this is far from guaranteed that who knows next time game day is going to come out here. Here's the other thing, MP. Since the new Big 12 formed, this is the first game day appearance that the Big 12 will be the game that's spotlighted, and all the other ones have been SEC. It's crazy to think since a Utah, BYU, BYU was already in there last time they were spotlighted, but a Utah, ASU, Arizona, Colorado, like since those teams entered, game day hasn't gone to a Big 12 site. This is a massive opportunity for the conference. I love that they're going to be spotlighted in this spot. And I'll even say this, it's great for a school like Cincinnati, who is one of the best stories in college football right now, despite the lack of pump and hype that they get.
There's no doubt about it. And they're a dangerous squad as well.
Oh,
but yeah, they definitely deserve to be spotlighted as well. Those kids have played really well for Cincinnati. And just what a crazy hire at the time, Satterfield. And it makes sense now because remember Louisville won 11 games the year after he left. Seems like that team was primed and ready, and he just happened to leave 1 year too soon. And now here he has turned Cincinnati around in a couple of years. So definitely an interesting game for the Utes. But I can't wait to see this game. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. I still don't know who I feel like is going to win the game. There's so much that goes into this.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, as far as the Big 12 being spotlighted, it's needed because it just comes so few and far between, like you said. I really wish we would get more of that, and unfortunately, one good thing about it is I think is at least there's another game day site that's building its way up to catch game day a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like on the Fox show that one is much more heralded now than it used to be. It used to be nothing. Nobody cared about it. I mean, it was on. You would watch it.
Hasn't even been a thing for 10 years. It's only been a thing for a couple of years now.
Right. And I think the Portnoy thing probably helped a lot. He's similar to what the game day did with McAfee, a guy that's maybe loud, boisterous, opinionated, visionary, all those things they have in common. As far as like obviously Portnoy did what he did with Barstool and everything. And obviously Pat, what he's done in his life is just immense. So I think those things help ratings, and which helps other teams get noticed. But yeah, obviously we know ESPN has all the leverages with the teams they're in bed with. We know that, and unfortunately, the Big 12 suffers for that.
What's great, we're one of them. Like that's what's funny. Like we're one of the teams that this conferences they're in bed with, but all they
not
care
as
about
much
is
money
the SEC.
invested in us, right?
No, very true. That's the biggest thing, and it feels like ever since that contract was struck, like there is data to support. Like they rarely go to other sites outside of the SEC with the occasional just massive matchup with the Big Ten. But it is great that Utah gets this matchup. And obviously, Paul, when we have a guy like Pat McAfee who's on game day, he's a guy who went to West Virginia, so he's a champion of this conference. A couple weeks ago, when they went to Georgia Ole Miss, he was on there saying, and him and his whole team, they came out there for game day. Him and like Witt arm wrestled. It was awesome. Like they did their show live from there. Like it's great that one of the men, a panelist up there, is from a Big 12 school, so he continues to hype up and give this conference some love they deserve. And I know really quick, Paul, for me, like I just grew up loving and watching College Game Day, and I still watch it every single week. I love all of it. I love the kicking contest. It's going to be great for this Utah team too. They spotlight your university. Drop your predictions in the comments who the guest picker would be. I think it'd be fun to see Post Malone, but I would love to see an Alex Smith up there too. Obviously, Eric Weddle would be another fantastic one. So there's lots of options they could obviously go with in Salt Lake City here, but I just love College Game Day, man. It's like a part of the essential viewing. I think they do a really good job production-wise still. That's why I've been so frustrated that they go to so many SEC, because I think it is such a good product with the analysis that they give, and it's a huge spotlight for the university. But what does College Game Day mean to you?
It means everything, man. I think it's so culturally, it just goes across so many different generations. The same people have been involved for the most part. I mean, you had one early change with the host. You went from Nestler to the guy that does it now, which is, what's his name again?
Well, Chris Fowler briefly too, and then they went to,
I'm not Nestler, Chris Fowler. Sorry.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, I got the name mixed up. But yeah, you go from Fowler to the guy that's doing it now. Obviously, Corso just recently changed out, and other than that, it's been relatively the same. I think the Bear, obviously, I think he Stanford Steve replaced the Bear, but other than that, very few people have changed on that show. I mean, I was going to bring, the thing up with, like, obviously I had some moments with my dad in the past that we had discussed, and some things I wanted to do there with my dad and had promised him someday I would do. And I think that, it means so much to, like, whenever game day happened in 2011 at West Virginia, that was a game day that I never thought it would be the last one I would spend with my dad at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's one of those things that people probably take for granted because it's such a good event to take family to. You can take friends to. You can go by yourself even. It's one of those things that I think people probably take for granted on the whole. Speaking of those changes, by the way, McAfee is actually under a lot of fire for some of the changes he's tried to implement there. So I think they're for the better, but like the kicking competition, like he's called him out publicly, which is a weird thing because he works for ESPN, but he continues to do so. But I think it's for the better personally. I do. I like it. I like it a lot. I think he does good things there.
I agree. I watch it more now because of his presence and the energy that he provides. And I can't recommend enough Utah fans. Like, I've only been to game day twice, but I remember both of them. It's such an awesome experience. And while I was a student at Utah, they never came to Utah. So what an awesome opportunity for the students. You got to go out there, make it rowdy, and remind, this isn't even just for Utah, remind everyone who isn't in the SEC, who isn't in the Big Ten, like remind ESPN how awesome these atmospheres are when you don't just go to the same dang SEC schools every single year. When you go to a place like Utah, it's actually going to cherish
It's a showcase.
It's absolutely a showcase. It's an opportunity to showcase this university, and I can't wait to see Utah capitalize it. And I know, MP, you just did a great job talking about how much game day means to you. With Pat McAfee on that desk, you know West Virginia's getting it sooner than later, too. So I love that.
We would have got it this year had we just not lost to Ohio.
Yeah, yes, you would. And that's the other. And one thing I will say for game day is they actually did want to go to a couple of these other different spots, but there's just been weeks where the team would let, like, they wanted to go to Florida State, Miami, ACC matchup, and yes, big brands, but then Florida State falls apart. So some of the reason they've gone to these schools is some of those as well too. What were you gonna say, MP, real quick?
So this gets a little bit deeper into it. It's not a subject for this show, but obviously we all know the rankings are kind of cooked, right? Like, I don't want to say they're cooking the books, but they're basically cooking the books.
Actually,
the SEC bias that's inherent, unfortunately, makes these matchups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What we say? Oh, I might have lost your mic.
I got it back. I got it. If I just touch this mic, it mutes. But like these rankings, like obviously with the SEC, because they're so overly favored, right?
Mm-hmm.
These matchups stay to where they're worth watching for game day. Does that make sense?
It
like
does.
In other words, like when we lost to Ohio, if we were in the SEC, we'd probably still be ranked the next week as to where. And it's not a great example, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Mac loss, but yeah,
maybe not that game, but like with the SEC, like you see teams all the time, they'll lose the next week, they're still ranked in the top 15. So that next week, even though they have one loss, and game day may not have went to a Big 12 team that got that same loss, they will to the SEC team because they're just more favored and ranked, right?
Yes.
Every week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope that made sense.
It does. No, they do. Like, they give the SEC the benefit of the doubt. And I'm so glad you brought up rankings, because let's talk about the Big 12 standings in the wild week that was the Big 12 in one moment. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is also brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. It's been so great to have the NBA back. Utah Jazz in action too. It's going to be an interesting year for the Jazz, but I'm excited to see what'll happen. And, Kevin Love being on the roster is still the wildest thing to me. I know that there was that whole thing they didn't put him in, but they got some fun pieces still. So I'm curious to see what'll happen in Utah, even if not expecting much from the Jazz, but whatever team you're feeling and however you're feeling about the NBA, head over to FanDuel. Right now, new customers get 300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Big 12 is chaos once again. We see Houston officially cement their status as a true Big 12 contender. They were a really good story and had been, record-wise, they were up there, but they didn't have that win yet that I looked at and went, yep, Houston, they're a team to look out for in this conference. And now I feel that way absolutely. After that big win against Arizona State might have knocked the Sun Devils out of conference title contention. And ASU now has 2 conference losses, just like the Utah Utes have. Actually, that might have been their first conference loss. So no, second, because they did lose the one to Utah. I forgot about the Utah one for a moment. Utah also with 2 conference losses. When you have 2 conference losses, you don't control your own destiny. So this last week,
Right.
Tech bounced back in a big way against Oklahoma State. We knew that was going to happen. And then you also get a gutty and just crazy performance from BYU, who continues to win on the road. Utah really needs to beat Cincinnati this week, because there is a scenario where Utah beats Cincinnati, Cincinnati were to beat a BYU, then things for Utah get a little bit more likely. But Utah does need help from some of those teams at the top stumbling. Unfortunately, MP, with the way those teams continue to look, seeing them stumble again and again just looks less and less likely.
Yeah, obviously you need to win out. That's first of all, right? I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And you've got a winning. I think the remaining schedule for you guys is very doable.
Yeah,
it's definitely not. I mean, what have you got? Baylor? I'm not looking at.
I got you. So it'll be Cincinnati. Then after that, we will get a bye. Then it's at Baylor, Kansas State, Kansas. Gosh, it's crazy how different those last 3 games look now compared to what we thought coming into this year.
I said this yesterday on my show. I was looking at our schedule. I said, if you'd have told me that this, Houston game coming up and the Cincinnati game coming up, and then it would be horrible, and Arizona State's looking more winnable, I'd have said you were crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But here we are. So here we are, right? Obviously, you guys need to win out, and you need some help. I think you're more than capable of winning out. The help part is, have you got it worked out exactly as to what you need to happen?
I saw an interesting tweet earlier that said apparently based on winning percentage, there is a world where if we had like the same record as a BYU, there's a chance we'd be in. So that's interesting to me. But either way, we still need BYU to lose 2 conference games. I will say this though, MP, like you guys played BYU earlier this year, like BYU, they deserve to be ranked where they are. They continue to find ways to win. I don't look at BYU and go, that's an undefeated Big 12 team right there. I could absolutely see BYU stumbling, especially with still Cincinnati and Tech on their schedule.
Yeah, with those 2 teams for sure. Any other 2, probably not.
More than likely not.
But certainly, I mean, Tech looks more beatable now than they did a couple of weeks ago. But Cincinnati is definitely a super dangerous team, and you're going to find out this week. I think we'll find out just how good both Utah and Cincinnati are this coming week specifically, because they're so evenly matched in so many metrics when you look at them. So. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this. But the chaos that is the Big 12, obviously in our situation, we just hope to win out to be bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that's almost impossible based on the remaining schedule. Would love to be in your situation, right? But there's still so much football left to be played. And there's any myriad of things that can happen that would just make this a non-factor for you guys. And you went out and you're in. Or, heck, there's even a world where 9-3 might get you in. You never know what's going to happen down the road. Teams are going to lose down the stretch. Maybe Texas Tech does what like the inverse of Baylor last year, falls apart down the stretch. I mean, things are going to happen that we're not expecting. This is the Big 12, and teams eat each other. There's a lot of data out right now on certain teams. And so, like, I heard somebody talk about this earlier. Texas Tech is coming, and I don't mean to keep bringing them up, but they're coming more down to earth, right? And I think that's
so it's interesting to me you feel that way. I feel like they are fine. Like they had Hammond in there. They lost to Arizona State. I don't think it's a bad loss. I still think they're the best team in the Big 12.
No, they were the best team in the Big 12 still. I'm just saying they're not as unbeatable as I thought they were. Yeah. Like, they're not like that Texas team there a few years back where it's like, oh my God, nobody can beat them. So I feel like this is a situation where they're not just going to win the conference and that's it, right? Like it felt like that for a while. And I think as more data comes out, like I was watching somebody earlier, they were talking about some advanced metrics on Texas Tech and how they're just not as unbeatable as what they looked like earlier in the year because of the talent disparity. There is a talent disparity even between the 2 below Texas Tech and Texas Tech as far as that goes. We know that, which for a while we thought were BYU and Utah. Now it's a mixture of teams and BYU. I think it's basically what Texas Tech, Gap, BYU.
I was about to ask you your top 5, so please give it to me here. What you have your top 5 teams in the Big 12?
Yeah, this is so obviously you have to have. For me, I think you still go with Texas Tech at the top. You do.
Agreed.
even though I still feel like they're more beatable, as I've said a few times already. Then BYU, because they're undefeated. You have to respect that. And then it's muddied, right? You've got obviously Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Houston, and Arizona State all kind of mixed in at the same spot.
Utah. Sorry. I don't know what that was. Gosh, I got caught in my throat there for a second.
Well, I guess I didn't say Utah because that's assumed, because I'm on but yeah, Utah obviously too. Top 5: Texas Tech, BYU, Texas Tech gap, BYU smaller gap. I'll give it to Utah for now until after Saturday to see what happens. I mean, look what you guys just did to Colorado. It's not like I'm just playing up to the camera here. Like, you guys were the most impressive team in the Big 12 Saturday. It's not a lie. Maybe BYU can say that with what they did to a better team. But I mean, at this point, you could probably say Colorado and Iowa State are almost similar with how many losses they have. So, okay, Texas Tech, BYU, Utah, and then it gets really hard. I would probably say Houston after that because they've earned it. I mean, they have earned it. And then I'm still going to give it to it's hard. The 5th team is hard.
Cincinnati?
Probably Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah, for mine really quick. So mine's interesting. Like if I'm going right now, like based on just like, hey, what they like where they deserve to be, I would go Tech. I say deserve. Just I still think Tech is really good. I still go over them over BYU. Tech, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, Utah. But if you would ask me where I think Utah will end up amongst those teams, I might say 2nd, but right now I'll go with 3rd just because BYU does have the recent head-to-head win over a Utah.
Power rated is a little different, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, if you're asking me to power rate the teams, then yes, I don't have Utah at number 3, just based on the win-loss record and a couple other things. But, I do think based on, number 1, how you guys play BYU, and number 2, on how I've seen you in person, you have the most, I still think you have the best overall offensive line in the league.
Agreed.
And obviously the best pass rush in the league,
at
least by the numbers. So there's no reason why you guys can't. We'll see Saturday. I think Saturday is going to tell us a lot about where Utah is and where Cincinnati is, and where, we're going to get some separation from that bunch, 5 or 6 teams. Finally, we're going to get a little more separation. Utah wins that game. They solidify themselves in at least the top 3 best teams power rated. Now, obviously, you have work to do to get there, obviously, but I think, there's a world where that happens for you.
I agree. And I can't wait to see how it's going to play out on Saturday. And we got a great matchups going on just across the Big 12 conference. And obviously, each and every week, we have a lot of different Big 12 hosts on. And I got one of the best with me, Mountaineer Paul. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Please let everyone know where they can find your show at.
Locked On West Virginia. We record twice a day, every single day. A lot of recording to do. Sometimes we go a little more. And then at Paul Mountaineer over on X is basically where I'm at most of the time. And then probably be building another show up here pretty soon too.
Nice. Well, looking forward to seeing that and appreciate you making the time. Thanks, MP.
Thanks, man.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. We got Kyle Whittingham's press conference tomorrow. We got a big matchup with the Bearcats we're getting you ready for all week long on Locked On Utes.